Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings, episode 4. We're going to talk today about rum. I'm your host, John, the cigar surgeon, working through my alcoholism issues online live with you. I'm here with my co-host, who looks a little different this week, Robbie Rass.
What's rum?
What's rum? So some people might be wondering why Logan's not here this week, and I just want to preface by saying Logan probably would be here because he's crazy. But he just had a baby, so we felt it'd probably be best to have him spend time with his newborn and wife and not get drunk.
Yeah, little Callie Lawler popped out about 20 hours ago, give or take, 21.
Give or take.
Yeah.
So we're talking rum today. So I'll just start off because we haven't really talked in the past a lot right up front about pairings. So this week what I've done, I kind of went through my cigars. I really actually wasn't sure what I was going to pair. Initially I was torn between the San Latano Maduro, which is a favorite of mine, AJ Fernandez stick, great stick. But I actually ended up with a Tatuaje J21. I was kind of looking for something, little woody, little earthy, a little bit of pepper to offset the sweetness of the rum. And then, because I'm a crazy Canadian, I went with, let's see what we got here. We've got just some terrible white rum from Captain Morgan.
That's terrible.
Terrible. It's a combination of a Caribbean rum, which is good, and Canadian rum, which could be good, but we're not exactly known for our rums.
Can I pause and ask a question?
Yeah, please do.
Because when we were in IPCPR last week,
Yes, sir.
there was, where were we when you were sitting there drinking a glass of plain white Bacardi rum?
We had the Circle Bar at the Palazzo, I think it was.
And what was your, hey.
Hey there.
Call me. What was your motivation? I'm putting you on Front Street a little bit because I couldn't believe you were just sitting there drinking that stuff.
Yeah, so first of all, no disrespect to Bacardi or any of the other companies that make white rum, but white rum is for mixing. White rum is not it's not for drinking. So we're at a fairly reasonably upscale Circle Bar, and I'm thinking, being Canadian, well, I probably don't want to order a Scotch from this place because I'll be paying $25 for a single dram, and I don't like money, but I don't like money that much.
But you like it a little bit.
I like it a little bit. So I said to her, just bring me a nice sipping rum. And she comes back with this, I'm sure it was Bacardi. In fact, I think she said Bacardi, and I was just too stunned from the day to say anything. But basically came back with something like this, which, Logan's talked about it in the past show. It's like rubbing alcohol. I mean, really, you talk about nosing, and it smells like rubbing alcohol, which is not exactly what I'm looking for in a spirit even to get drunk on. I'm not looking for rubbing alcohol. That's just not my speed.
It's good for minor cuts and scrapes.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And if you want to make like a daiquiri or something.
Yeah, it's the thing I found. Look, because I was shopping for some rum yesterday, I wanted to just get crazy with the rum today. Most of the rum bottles are very inexpensive. That is, you can get a really good rum for not that much money, and everyone knows I'm kind of a Scotch slut. You can drop some pretty significant money on Scotch, and you can get 2-3 bottles of rum for the price of most midline Scotches. So it's a pretty reasonably priced beverage.
That's a good point. You were going through your list of what you've got with you, and I interrupted you, but
that's so good.
I was kind of surprised that even at a place like the Circle Bar, they didn't even have like Zaya, which Zaya is 12-year-old rum. I don't have any here. But I can go down to Safeway and buy that for $22 a bottle, and it's decent. I can pour that over some ice and drink it and be totally fine. I was surprised they didn't have anything like that. I didn't expect to see Florida Caña or Zacapa or anything like that, but just surprised that they didn't even have Zaya, which, Zaya was where I started with sipping rum. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and that could be a factor of maybe there's not a lot of people that go there and actually ask for a sipping rum. Like maybe the majority of their clientele just ask for a mixed drink with rum, and so they don't bother to put the top, quote unquote top shelf, which is, top shelf rum is $45. Top shelf Scotch is $200. So,
Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't just put 5 bottles of random rum on the shelf, but hey, you know what? I'm not running their bar, and they get to do what they get to do.
The return on the investment probably isn't all that high either. I mean,
Probably not.
I mean, you can get bottle of Zacapa, Ron Zacapa, which I've got here, is really good stuff for $50. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, $50 is $50, but when you're talking about a full bottle, I got the wrong microphone or the wrong camera. A full bottle of what is this, 750 milliliters for $50? It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a bar, $50 on a bottle of rum, that's nothing. I mean, even if somebody asked for that to be mixed in, it's still really inexpensive.
But anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you. So
All right,
tell us what you got. So you started with the Bacardi.
Started with the Bacardi. Well, it's actually not Bacardi. It's Captain Morgan's, but I mean, it's of the same vein. It's a white rum, right? It's not anything special. I have to go with my favorite, which I got hooked on when I went to Nicaragua, the Florida Canyon 12. Man, this stuff, it's just a heater. I mean, you can see by the bottle. I hate it, obviously. It's smooth, it's delicious. They age it, they treat it with respect in that, they really care about putting out a quality product. And again, super inexpensive. I love it. You can see
what's going on with that bird in your background?
It's summertime here, and we get about 22 days of summertime, so the birds.
Get after it.
Yeah, it kind of gets in the way of my podcast, but what can you do, man? It's the great outdoors.
They get after it when they get that 22 days. But go ahead.
So you can see the color difference. It's pretty significant. I mean, no one would mistake these rums for each other. We move up to the Florida Canyon 18, which again, this is a really, really great rum. This is the kind of thing you'd have on your shelf to really treat someone to a nice rum. Extremely smooth, very complex. There's a lot of times where I actually prefer the 12 to the 18, only because they're quite a bit different character. The 18 is smoother. Color differences, I mean, they're pretty close. But the 12, I don't know. There's just something about it. It's got a little more character. The 18 is smoother, but that is how it is. Because I'm Canadian, I've got some forbidden fruit. The Havana Club 7 Añejo from Cuba. Brought it over. Again, if you look at the color, it's about the same color as the Florida Canyon. It's a little bit lighter because it's only a 7-year. If it was their 12 or 15, it'd be darker. And then last but not least, because I was doing some research on rum, and I wanted to pick up like a true sort of navy rum. And this is basically like a full-bore, out-of-the-cask, non-diluted rum. And you can see by the bottle it's dark, but when you look at the glass, I mean, that is some dark booze with a heck of a nose to go with it. I mean, the thing smells like black licorice and, man, I don't know. Black licorice and leather. It's pretty yummy.
It sounds pretty heavy. I've got pretty much the same lineup as you, give or take. I didn't mess around with any clear business. God bless you for taking it on, but somebody else can deal with that. I decided I'm going to smoke a Liga Privada T52 today.
Very nice.
So I've got Florida Canyon 12 as well.
Excellent.
My wife and I kind of put things into. Why can't I think of the word for this?
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know what? I can't think of the word either, but I know what you're talking about. So you moved from the original funnel to a decanter. Do you have a few decanters? Do you like using decanters?
Yeah. This is the 18, and we've decanted most everything.
Interesting.
Not for any real scientific reason, just because our bar looks kind of cool with a bunch of different decanters on top. So we've collected them over years when we find some. Like this isn't even a decanter. This is a tequila brand, and I can't remember what brand it is, but and this is heavy. Like it's legit. I don't know if you can really tell.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously can't tell how heavy it is.
It's pretty solid.
That's the bottle that tequila comes in. And a friend of mine had it, and I wanted the bottle, so I took it. And the one that I've got that you don't is the Ron Zacapa. Solera 23, but that's kind of just like the basic Ronzacapa. I mean, really, I think there's just Ronzacapa and Ronzacapa XO, and the XO is out of my price range. I think it's at least $100 a bottle. It might be two.
Someone in the audience was asking prices, and I didn't actually mention price. I think typically, even up here in Canada, Florida Canya 12 is typically around the $30-$35 mark.
Yeah.
The 18 is around the $40-$45 mark. I've seen it as low as $39 on sale. Cuban one, I think I paid like 30 cuke, which is like 33, 34 Canadian, something like that. And the lambs, I think, was only about $35. So again, like I've got a roll of five rums here, and 5 bottles of rum, and I'm paying less than what I pay for a reasonably high-end bottle of Scotch.
Yeah, with the Florida Cognac around me, if you're coming back through duty free, get it there because it's like $24.
Yep.
When I was coming back from Nicaragua, for whatever reason, I didn't buy it. And when I got home, I was disappointed because I could have got almost two for the price of one. It's like 30. I think it's 39 is kind of like the standard price at like a Bevmo or something. But when everything's usually on sale, Club Bev or whatever, $34.99, something like that. The 18 is I think 49, and then it's usually on sale. The Zacapa is about 49 as well. That's what I've paid. And you were we'll talk more about the differences between Florida Cognac 12 and 18, but the way that I see it is the Florida Cognac 12 is the easiest for me to drink. The 18, I have to kind of want it because it's a little bit more complex, not quite as sweet.
Yep.
The 12 is much sweeter, and for me, the Zacapa fits right in between those two, like a step in between, where it's got more complexity, it's got more body to it, but it's also got that sweetness as well. So,
what did you say the price point was on the Zacapa, roughly?
I believe it's $50.
That's not
49. 49 is kind of like the standard price, and then they'll have it on Club Bev for $47.99 or $45 or whatever. I'm going to start with the 12, but anyway, go ahead.
So, like the bourbon from the last show, I knew a little bit about rum. I mean, I knew it came from tropical origins, but really that was kind of where my rum knowledge ended. And I actually found it kind of interesting reading up because it turns out that rum is one of the oldest known sort of fermented alcoholic beverages in the world. And you can actually trace the origins back to India and China. So, it goes so far back that there's no actual recorded. So we're talking, 3,000, 4,000 years of rum sort of evolving as a drink. The Malaysian people, the Malays, produced, they called it brum, which is more of a wine than a rum per se. But that was a mainstay beverage for them for thousands of years. So, you think of rum as a sort of a Caribbean drink, but, the origins are actually quite a bit older. Modern day rum really obviously did start in the Caribbean around the mid-1600s. That's kind of where history sort of picks it up and records official distillation. And what was interesting to me is rum, of course, comes from sugarcane, but in sort of a roundabout way, where the slaves working in the Caribbean would actually, so they were preparing sugarcane, and they were sort of left with this substance afterwards, which was sort of this black viscous substance, which we know as molasses. And really, molasses was sort of treated as byproduct, like it was a refuse item. They fed it to animals, and it's not like anyone was using this for anything. It was a garbage product. But presumably, someone figured out, hey, you can take this molasses, add some yeast, ferment it, and boom, shakalaka, you've got rum. And it was such a big deal that you talk about, I think a lot of people might know if they've ever played Assassin's Creed Black Flag, they know that, and hopefully their history's better than that, but they know that the English Navy, they're known for rum. Like that was their sort of naval drink, was rum. But what was interesting to me is that they were using French brandy before they used rum. Like French brandy was their primary drink, and presumably at that time it was pretty expensive. And when they captured the island of Jamaica, the entire naval force of England switched over to rum, like that. So now you've got this world power, this world naval power that's using rum basically as trading as a commodity.
That's I know nothing. I know how to drink it, and that might even be a stretch. Like I'm drinking it neat. I prefer, especially rum, because it's sweeter. I really prefer it on ice.
Me too. Me too, actually.
I prefer most of my booze on ice. And like John, you and I were talking about it. I don't really care if that bothers somebody. Like when I was in Dublin, I ordered they had like a Jameson Platinum or something like that. Some kind of crazy 25-year-old what the hell ever Jameson. And I had been drinking all day, so I figured, what the hell, I'll get one. It was like $20, or it might even been €20 for a pour. And I got it anyway. And the guy asked me if I wanted ice. I said 1 ice cube, and I was like, hey man, I'm paying for it. I want to take it the way that I want it. If that offends you, that's just too damn bad. But yeah, it's all that I really know about rum is that it's really tasty.
It is really
nice.
tasty.
It's nice and sweet. Like I wanted to do the opposite of you. When you were telling me how you were going to pair with your cigars for the show, I wanted to go with something really sweet, just to see how the sweetness from the cigar and the sweetness from the rum played with each other. We posted a review of the Jericho Hill today. I really want to pair that.
That's a fantastic cigar. I wish if I had a box of Jericho Hill sitting in front of me, I'd be chain smoking them right now.
It's legit, but it's like there's that. To me, it seems like if I paired that with rum, it would be like having a good rum ball. Have you ever had a good the rum ball dessert?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's this bakery down the street that makes them, and they're like $4 each for one rum ball, but I'll buy a dozen because they're so damn good.
Yeah.
Or just buy one because they're big, but it feels like pairing a Jericho Hill with like a Florida Cognac 12, for example, would kind of pair to have that flavor, that chocolatey sweet, but you still get the rum essence in there.
Yeah.
But I ended up going with the T52. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Well, that's interesting because that might make for a really effective pairing. I find the Rocky Patel 92s and some of the Arturo Fuentes to be sort of chocolatey and sweeter. So that might be and we'll have to do that maybe for another show when we're sort of freewheeling our pairings. I'll try a 92 with a rum, or maybe try a nice Chateau Fuente with rum, because that's true. One of the best things I can remember as a kid is for Christmas time getting a nice chocolate rum. And they're great. It's just you get that chocolate, and then you get that other sweetness, which is the rum, and they do actually really play off against each other nicely.
Yeah, I will be purchasing a box of those at some point. Yeah, that cigar is damn good. But that's a pairing that I would like to do. In the past, I've successfully paired with rum. One of the cigars that I've gone to more than once with rum is the Moya Ruiz Prieto, their initial release, the Maduro, because that was a real chocolatey cigar for me, and that paired really well with the Zacapa and the Florida Cognac 12. The T52, and I'm sipping a little bit of the 12. The pairing's okay. I really would rather have some ice in here. You know what? I'm actually gonna scoop one out of my glass of water here. Don't tell anybody that. Actually, I could have done that without telling anybody. But
it's off camera. Don't ruin the magic.
Actually, you guys, you heard my you heard it drop into my glass. I heard it. I'm surprised that was that loud. But anyway, continue. I keep cutting you off. I'm sorry.
It's all good. We're here for a dialogue, and it's all good. There's a good audience question about whether I chill rum, and the interesting thing is I'm actually of the same vein. If you go onto Amazon or you go to like a Home Outfitters or something like that, they have these really great not plastic, but they're like a silicone ball, and that's actually just to go one level deeper. That's why I have this glass, is because the lip of this glass specifically allows for an ice ball, and they make a fantastic ice ball. And the nice thing about an ice ball in a rum is the ice ball doesn't have as much surface area to expose to the booze as like an ice cube. So you'll find with an ice ball, it's not going to melt as fast, or it's not going to dilute your rum as much. So if we weren't on camera right now, in retrospect, and maybe for the next show, what I'll do is I'll crack out one of the ice balls, because they're good size. They'll fill sort of halfway up to the glass, and only the bottom part of that ball will sit in the beverage, and it chills it nicely. And as Catfish was sort of mentioning in chat, ice and in cooling, it does change the flavor profile. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah, I have an ice ball that looks like the Death Star.
That should have more of those.
Yeah, I don't have the silicone one. I've got some whiskey stones that I don't know if you've talked about those. I mean, obviously, I don't think I would use these here, but I don't know if you've talked about those in the past. They leave me wanting a little bit. I feel like they just get in the way. They don't make it cold enough. It's like a cold tease for me.
And I think the concern I have, and no disrespect to the whiskey stone manufacturers, but I've spent a few bucks on glassware because I've sort of been educated that glassware can make a difference. And my concern with the whiskey stones, whether it's in rum or whiskey, is that it's going to scratch up my glass. I mean, you're talking about a rock in your glass, and in my mind, the more I use that, the more the inside of my glass is going to get scratched up, and it's just not something I'd chance. So I'd much rather have a silicone ice ball where I know it's not going to damage the glass. It's going to cool my beverage consistently, and even sometimes it's okay if it waters my beverage off a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. So
yeah, that's I felt the same way. Like I've used them in they're the Glencairn glasses. Is that what they're called?
Yep, that's right.
Because I've got a few of those, and I like to get them in there. You kind of have to drop them, and then they fall all over the place, and I'm just worried that I'm going to crack it, and that would really be more my fault than the fault of the glass or the stones. But yeah, it's for whatever reason I use them occasionally, but if it's something that I really want cold, I won't. It doesn't get it cold enough for me for that. Like the one drink that I use them in a lot is Lefroy, because for whatever reason I like that a little bit better when it's warm, or room temperature, I should say. So to have just a little bit of chill with that is good for me. But that's really the only thing I use them for.
Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the Glencairn glass, because it is really good for nosing and tasting room temperature beverages. But you really wouldn't want to use that, because trying to get an ice cube in there, you're just going to make a mess. You're really better off for a lipped glass like this. And what's really interesting, I think, about a glass like this is that when you drink, so when I drink rum out of this, it does deliver the beverage a little bit differently in your mouth, whereas a Glencairn glass sort of delivers it almost in a straight line down the center of your tongue. A glass like this sort of funnels the drink out in a wide pour, like a basically wide across your mouth, so you get the rum all the way across the tongue. And I think you do get, I mean, it's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. And if I'm drinking, frankly, if I'm drinking rum or port, this is the kind of glass I prefer for that. So that's why I brought these out today.
Just going standard.
Standard, normal round.
Standard rocks glass, yeah.
Yeah, man.
And actually, I'll comment a little bit on this pairing. It's actually working out pretty well. And this is, I'll ask you kind of a broad question. For me, my wife and I actually had a discussion about this, because my wife's pretty awesome. We were talking about, pairings of food, and it's usually we're talking about wine and pairing it with food. For me, I don't think of the pairing as making one thing better. My goal for the pairing, like if I'm pairing a cigar with rum, my goal isn't to make the cigar better or to make the rum better. If I had to choose one, I would want it to make the cigar better, but that's never really my goal. My goal is to get the flavors to play nicely. And really, by that they enhance each other in a way. And I never really had even thought about it from a standpoint of, well, the wine is going to be better if I have it with a steak, or the steak is going to be better if I have it with the wine. I don't know. What's your goal when you're attempting a pairing of, be it cigars with rum or scotch or wine with dinner?
I think for me, again, whether it's rum, scotch, wine, port, one of the 50 beverages I have in the house, my goal is, I think, evolved from cooking, and that is I'm looking to add just, and maybe this is true of cigar blending. I'm not a cigar blender, so I don't know. Maybe we should ask a cigar blender, but my goal is to take, like you said, the complexity of the beverage up a notch. So I want to take the initial flavors, which are good by themselves, and I want to introduce something new, something different. I want to sort of take it up a notch. And I think you're sort of, at least for me, you're looking to build that up to a point where it's a concert of flavors. But when it's cooking or when it's pairing, you can certainly find bad combinations, and it ends up being too many flavors, and your taste buds are all over the place, and you're like, well, this is terrible. A good example would be if you had Sambuca with meat. That would be terrible because you got this like strong, thick, heavy black licorice with sort of this sweet meat. I mean, for me, it would just be terrible.
You got the sweet meats.
Sweet meats.
That reminds me, I'm a big fan of the show Friends, and you're old enough to have remembered this show when it was actually on. And there's always one episode that I remember where Joey made a drink for himself, and Chandler walks in and says, "Hey, do you want a Sambuca margarita?" He's like, "Is that even a thing?" He's like, "Well, it is now. It's the only two things we had." Ugh. So I could talk about some stuff, some flavors that are going to combat. But the reason that I brought up that comment about not wanting one to be made better, the pairing of this Liga T52 with the Florida Caña 12 is doing absolutely nothing for the rum.
Interesting.
I mean, the rum is getting just completely blown away. But I feel like it enhances the flavor of the cigar a little bit.
That's interesting.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but because the T52, it's got that pepper, it's got that spice, but it's also got a nice base of sweetness, or at least it does for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's enhanced a little bit with this Florida Caña 12.
Well, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Like the T52 is classified as a premium cigar in premium cigars. So in my mind, there's nothing wrong with taking a particular beverage and saying, look, the goal of my beverage is to enhance the cigar experience, and vice versa. You might smoke maybe something with a Connecticut, a light Connecticut leaf to bring out the sweetness in the rum. Like there's a bunch of different ways you can play that off. I personally would have voted, and the reason I went with the Tatuaje is because I know it's sort of in the medium range, and I was looking for something that had that pepper, had a little bit of a bite to it. It wasn't that sort of full, heavy, mouthfeel, earthy Ligero that just seems to sort of eat up every other flavor around it. Like it's the tobacco black hole. It just sucks in every other flavor around it.
Ligero.
Love that Ligero. So
just since we're talking about it, and there's going to be a lot of little things that you guys may or may not notice over the next month when Logan and I are doing a show, or we're going to start doing some weekly mod wrap-up shows and things like that. There's going to be a lot of random little comments that I don't know if there's just going to be inside jokes, and it's all just from random BS that we were all saying throughout our IPCPR trip. And someone at some point somewhere said that next year we should all wear just GoPro cameras and have them on all the time, and just do a 24-hour show. I mean, except for when you're in. Nobody wants poop cam, but everywhere else. I think that'd be kind of fun to do something like that, because that way everybody could jump in on our little inside jokes.
Yeah, and you know what? We're still working on people don't know this, but we're still working on a B-roll of some of the stuff that we cut from the.
How much B-roll do you have?
You know,
We're getting off topic, and I'm sorry. But
my girlfriend was looking at me pretty hilariously last night because I was just giggling my head off as I was sort of combining this B-roll. We have got just a ridiculous amount of stuff that is going to make for hopefully a very funny B-roll for the manufacturers. I think most of the guys who got in there aren't going to take offense at this, but I mean there is just some ridiculous stuff. And props to again to Andre of Valley for coming up with that idea because man, it's going to provide some solid entertainment. But back to the show at hand, because we kind of got way off topic there. So I'm going to take a drink of this just to break for a second. I've been kind of sipping down the line, and I really haven't touched this Captain Morgan's for good reason. But I'm going to take a sip for the audience, and I hope everyone out there appreciates this.
good luck.
I mean, it's not that bad since it's been sitting there, but I would sort of equate it to drinking the last bit of a watered down Slurpee. Like, there's not a lot of character. It's very sweet. There's just not a lot going on. Fortunately, the nose of that really rubbing alcohol isn't there in the taste, but I'm not going to want to sit there and sip this. So to get rid of that, I'm going to drink this delicious Florida Canyon 12 because I loves it. And I mean, it's got like this this really nice citrusy fruit to it. There's sort of a hint of wood. It's a super smooth finish. Like there's no lingering heavy flavors in the mouth. I mean, I would just equate it to this is the kind of rum I'd use for any sort of mixed drink if I really wanted a fantastic rum mixed drink. I think the Florida Canna 12, although I do like it straight up, I think that's the rum I'd probably use because it's it's pretty tasty.
I would. It's your choice. I don't think I would mix with it just because it's so good on its own.
So good on its own.
Have you tried the Florida Canyon 7?
I have. I was lucky enough to try the expressions. I think the first expression was the 3, and we went all the way up to I want to say the 21 or the 25.
When you were down at the DE factory.
Yeah. And,
yeah, we did that too.
I mean, it was a great experience. I mean, beyond the fact that you get to try some products from another country. For me, as a guy who likes beverages, it was really interesting to try their entire expression line, and all of them are good in their own rights. But the 2 I sort of narrowed down on was the 12 and the 18. I found the 21 was amazing, like incredible, but it was kind of one of those things I find with whiskey and Scotch where it's almost too aged. That is, for me, you lose a lot of the complexity you see in that 18, and you start to go down that hill where it's an excellently smooth drink, but it's not speaking to me anymore, And
I would I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, and I'm just used to being on the show with Logan, and I interrupt him all the time, and it's not a big deal. But no, because you made a point that resonated with me. Like I feel the same way when I try something that's aged, like you were saying, 20 years, 21 years, 25, whatever. I feel like you get more character out of the younger stuff, and maybe that's just because my palate's not ready for it. But I almost equate it to like if you have a cigar that you really like, you love a T52, and then you let it age for 2 years, and then you smoke it again, and it smooths out a little bit, but it's still really good. But then you let one age for like 5 years, and you go to smoke it, and it's like, oh man, it's like it's almost too smooth now. It's losing. It lost a bit of that ruggedness or whatever you want to call it that really kind of jumped up and got your attention. I've had that same experience.
Yeah, I mean, you're in essence you're cutting out the sort of highs and lows, and it's not that the lows are bad. It's just all of those things combine to create that particular flavor profile that you're looking for. And I completely agree. I find that with more expensive and whether we're talking about whiskeys or rums, I have to be in the mood for it because you almost have to spend some time trying to understand the beverage because you take a sip and you're really using your brain. You're like, well, I don't even know what I'm tasting. And I don't want to chug an expensive $100 bottle of rum or $150 bottle of Scotch. I want to enjoy it. So, the Florida Canyon 12 is my go-to because I can say, well, me and the 12 have a good relationship. The 12 understands me and I understand the 12. I can pour that, and just start going to town. The 18 is sort of more of a, okay, I really want a nice complex rum tonight, which isn't to discount the Cuban rums. And this, just as a side note, the 7 is not an excellent expression of what rums are available from Cuba. There's some real heaters, and I'll be coming back with some when I come back from the Partagas Festival, name drop, in November. Because Cuba in essence, and I don't know if a lot of people out there knew this, but up until the end of the Prohibition, Cuba was producing 50% of all of the rum in the entire world.
Wow, I did not know that.
For an island that small, that's an amazing amount of production. And the interesting thing is, unlike whiskey or bourbon or rye, it's not a very regionalized drink. You can go the world around, and most places in the world, you can find a particular rum that is made there. Like, there's very few countries in the world that don't take a shot. I mean, take this Captain Morgan. Canada isn't exactly tropical, yet we have a rum. So I'm pretty sure you can go to most countries anywhere and find a rum.
So when I went down to Mexico in November, wife and I did an all-inclusive type thing, which I'd never done before. It was a lot of fun. I got off the plane, and you're going through the airport in the little duty-free area, and I saw Havana Club in there, and I flipped out. So I ran in there, and I bought a bottle, the same bottle that you've got, which is the best one they had, was the 7-year Añejo.
Yep.
And because I remember looking at the place that we were staying, and the booze that were available were it was a high priority for us. I mean, we're going to be hanging out, having a good time. You can only have so many fruity drinks, so I wanted to make sure they had some good stuff. And I mean, the top shelf stuff was fine. Johnny Walker Black or whatever was the top shelf they're going to have of the free stuff, and you can upgrade a little bit if you want to. They had one nice bar that had a bunch of different stuff, but I didn't see any rum listed. So I get off the plane, I see this Havana Club, I flip out. I bought a bottle of it for like $25. And so I'm just pumped, right? I've got this bottle, and we finally get to our resort, our destination, and they had everything from Havana Club, from the 3-year-old,
oh wow,
white or clear or whatever you call it, all the way up to the 7 that I was drinking. So I ended up only drinking like that much of the bottle.
Nice.
And I was too much of a puss to try and bring it home. so I just left it there. But I actually didn't really like it that much. I mean, maybe it's because it was the 7 and it wasn't. I mean, I didn't really get to try any of the longer aged versions of their higher price stuff. But it had a weird taste to it, and I can't really describe what it was because it's been 7 or 8 months since I was there, but it was almost like a tanginess to it that I found a little bit off-putting. But when you put that in a mojito, it was damn good.
Oh yeah, the interesting thing about going to the Partagas Festival, name drop, was that was my first experience. Up until that point, I really didn't enjoy mojitos. I didn't think mojito was a very good drink. But when you have a mojito sitting on the beach or sitting in someplace tropical with a really nice aged rum, some fresh mint, I mean, that is a drink you can understand why people the world around thought that rum was the bee's knees, because I mean it makes for a really complex and delicious and heat-beating drink. But yeah, I mean the 7 is really not there. It's not a fair expression of the rums they have. I mean it's again we've got the Florida Canna 12 and the 18, so I could very well bring back an 18-year-old or 21-year-old Cuban, which will beverage, not person.
Well, you could bring back an 18-year-old Cuban too if you wanted
to. Put him to work, give him some freedom.
She might be hot.
Yeah, but I got a girlfriend, so she probably appreciate that. Yeah. But the interesting thing about there's sort of this segmentation, because with rum, unlike whiskey or bourbon, there's no set rules. That is, no one came out and said, well, you have to produce rum in this way, it has to be aged for this long, you have to put it in X cask. There's no rules. Everyone sort of did their own thing. And there seems to be this sort of segmentation by language, which really goes back to who conquered your nation back in the day. So if your nation was conquered by the English, your rum is going to be like this. It's going to be a very dark, sort of very complex, not watered down rum. If you were conquered by the French, it's going to be a lot sweeter. They're going to use a lot more sugarcane juice in there. It's going to be a little bit lighter in color. And if it's Spanish, so interestingly enough, most of the rums we have here are Spanish in origin. They're going to be a lot more aged. They're going to have a lot more influence from the wood, from the oak. Although, from what I understand, they've moved. A lot of them have moved away from oak and are now using bourbon barrels, presumably because they're cheap. And there's so many bourbon barrels being produced from bourbon companies. So everyone out there, please keep drinking bourbon. The Scotch and rum industries appreciate your sacrifice. Please drink bourbon and allow us to enjoy all these other delicious beverages as well. So I've sort of had the 12. 12 is really good. The 18 is just, I mean, it's just so complex. It does actually play really nicely with this J21. It does sort of cut off the pepperiness, and it does linger a lot more, especially with the cigar. So I find smoking the cigar and drinking the 18, that sort of citrusy rum flavor is really, really lingering for, like I can still taste this sort of bright rum taste in my mouth with this cigar. And it plays off against each other really nicely, I think.
I'm familiar with the 12 as well, the Florida Canyon 12. The flavors for me are pretty basic, but again, if anybody is watching this and hasn't really tried rum, the intro rum, the gateway drug for me, and what I recommend to everybody is Zaya 12-year-old. You can buy it, like I said, at Safeway for like $25.
Yeah.
It's really, really sweet, almost cloyingly sweet. So I usually let mine water down on some ice a little bit, but it's a nice step between like a spiced rum and something that's more complex like a Florida Caña 12. But the Florida Caña's got that nice round sweetness to it. I mean, it really does settle on the tongue nicely. It's not overpowering. It's not going to nuke your palate by any means. It's really easy to drink, and it is a bit brighter, I would say, like you were saying, than the 18. The 18 to me it's a deeper flavor. It's a bit more earthy. I mean, it's not earthy really, but that's the only way I can think to describe it. Is it's just a deeper, bit more complex. A complex rum. Cut the sweetness like in half, yeah. I think, between the two that you're going to get there. And that's, like I said, that Ron Zacapa kind of falls right in between, where it's more complex, it's got more depth to it, but it still maintains a good portion of that sweetness that you're going to get from the Florida Caña 12. And that's actually what I'm drinking right now, and I'm pairing it with the Liga, and it's a nice pairing. I mean, the flavors mesh really well, and they highlight each other. So instead of just spotlighting one, it really does take the two and take them to a different level. And I don't know if that's just because there's a little bit of alcohol in there or what, but the flavors really do pair well.
I'm finding the Havana Club is it's too sweet, the 7. I enjoy the 7 on its own, but there's almost too much of a sugarcane influence where it's good, but good on its own or good as a mixed drink. This is not really the cigar I would pair with this. The sweetness really overpowers a lot of the complexities of the cigar. Hard to taste the pepper and any of the spiciness in the tatuaje. So this is not something I'd recommend. I am enjoying the 7, just not with this cigar. And I have to say, this Lamb's Navy Rum is really interesting. I mean, it's just, I don't even know how to describe the nose on this. It's just on a whole different level than all the other rums. I mean, this is just this is essentially to me the sort of full-bodied spectrum of cigar, but in the rum, where I've got all these flavors playing into each other, and even on the nose, like there's so much stuff that I can't even really identify everything. I mean, the primary thing that I'm picking up is this black licorice. It's not an overpowering smell. It's actually quite nice. There's some leather, and you can really smell the oak in there. And I mean, you get a ton of white oak, and it's not very sweet, especially comparative to the 7. I don't know that I would pair that rum either with this, because I think that might be better mixed with maybe a lighter cigar, maybe a Dominican, or like a Chateau Fuente, maybe a nice Nub Connecticut, or actually, what would go really well with this is a not a Nub Maduro. Shoot. Now my brain has completely lost me, but I'll
The
think of
Nub
it.
Dub?
No, it's the not the Mexican,
Habano?
the Mexican wrapper, the
They
life
did a nub with a Mexican wrapper on it?
Yeah, can't think of it. I'll come back to it. At any
I
rate,
didn't know that. The Nub USA? I didn't know they did one with a Mexican wrapper on it.
yeah, I think. I mean, it's not sweet enough to be paired with something heavy like a dark Maduro wrapper. Something much lighter would be much better, I think. So I think for me the winner is probably the 12 or the 18. If I were to mix the lambs, I'd go something Dominican, maybe a Goldie, anything like that. I think those sort of hay and lighter flavors would play off against each other really nicely. The sweetness wouldn't overpower that. Sadly, the Captain Morgan's, Captain Morgan's, you're going to go back to the back of my cabinet for when somebody comes over and wants a rum and coke. For every other experience, it's going to be what's left of this sad 12-year-old bottle, which is clearly broken and needs to be replaced soon. That's probably still going to be my mainstay. But interesting to try 5 different rums with a single cigar and see what works and what doesn't.
I see you've got the old style bottles of the Florida Caña as well.
Is that an old style bottle? Have I got something vintage that I can sit on and make money?
I don't know about that, but the new bottles are much more sleek. They're kind of squarish. They're still squat like that, but I don't have one, but because I poured everything in these. But yeah, they did a rebranding a year ago, 6 months ago, something.
Yeah.
If you follow Skip Martin on Instagram, you'll see what they look like.
Skip's a big fan.
Skip, you obviously don't follow him.
Apparently
Yeah,
not.
he's either posting pictures of some Roma Craft stuff or some Florida Caña.
Interesting.
He does not. I don't know if he's got some kind of deal with those guys or what, but he does not screw around when it comes to the Florida Caña. No, you didn't. Enrique had the new bottles of it there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Enrique, of course, being a great diplomat for Nicaragua, he loves his Florida Caña, and I love having a 1502. 1502 is like a 1502 Emerald. That is a fantastic cigar to pair with a Florida Caña. Especially, actually, because we got to try the new Lanceros. I'll tell you what, that 1502 Emerald, I'm thinking about right now. Man, that would be a heater with a Florida Caña 12 or 18. That would be something else. I'm gonna have to try that for a later show.
The Florida Caña, the what now?
the 1502 Emerald, I think, would pair really well with the Florida Caña 12 or 18.
I was when we were at the show. Enrique's 1502 cigars. Is it Sanchez or Suarez? I think it's Sanchez.
It's Sanchez, yeah.
Who's Enrique Suarez? Because that's somebody too.
I'm sure that's somebody too, but I couldn't tell you who he works for.
I think it's somebody in the cigar industry. Anyway, but I digress. I guess I'm sure it is somebody. There is someone named Enrique Suarez. Anywho, when we were there and he cracked open that bottle of the 12, I was smoking the Ruby Lancero. And the pairing there was really nice too. And one of the pairings that I swear by, and I haven't done it in a while, is that Zaya 12-year-old I told everybody about with a Padron 64 Maduro, any size, doesn't matter what size it is. That pairing, change your life. That's what I should have smoked and drank tonight, and maybe we'll do that for a later show, because that's, now that I think about it, that is probably one of the best pairings I've ever had. And, you know, probably pairing that with the Flor de Caña 12 would be just as good. Might even be better because it's not quite as sweet.
Has anyone actually ever smoked a Padron and said that they didn't enjoy it? I mean, it's really hard to go wrong with Padron. And for me, the 64 is sort of akin to smoking a really complex chocolate bar. Like it's just fantastic. And I do have some Padron 64 Principes sitting in the humidor
Nice.
because I keep smoking cigars for review these days and not smoking cigars just for my own enjoyment. And I have to break some of those out. Maybe I'll do that for a future show. Just so people know, previously this was sort of a two show a month thing that we're doing. We've got a lot more interest in it. We're going to be doing a show next week, which is the 6th. We're going to have a special guest. We're going to max out our Canadian content here with another Canadian guest, surprise guest. Focus of our show next week is going to be beers. So hopefully there'll be. I'm sure there's some beer lovers out there. We're not going to be drinking Labatt's before anyone makes any jokes about Canadians drinking Labatt's. We do not drink Labatt's. We drink high-end beer. And we actually got a really good pairing recommendation from Chuck Clack on Instagram. I follow him. He likes to pair a lot. Saw a really cool and interesting pairing. Not sure how many people out there would enjoy this, but it was a Chimay. If anyone's drank Chimay before, Chimay is very strong, very full-bodied in flavor, very fruity, and he was pairing with a San Latano Maduro, which is an interesting combination because you're sort of talking about two heavy ends. The Maduro is that really fuller end of the Maduro line, earth, spice, like lots of Lajero, and Lajero is so good. And then the Chimay is that sort of really heavy end of beer where, I mean, you're almost getting into wine territory with the amount of fruitiness it brings. But I thought that was made for an interesting combination, and I just wanted to give a shout out to him because he allowed us to suggest the pairing on the show.
Yeah, that's when you mentioned that. I think I made a face like, because it just in my head. I've had both of them. Well, I'm not sure which Chimay he was. What was the blue label or the red? I don't know the difference between the two.
I believe it was the red, and I couldn't tell you definitively what the difference is between.
Yeah,
the two.
I don't know what the difference is. I've tasted both of those. I'm not a huge fan, but it seems like those two drastic ends of the spectrum. And maybe that's like we were talking about earlier. My view on pairing, like I want to pair like flavors. I want to pair like a sweet chocolatey cigar with like a sweeter rum, and I want to pair like something that's spicy and that's big and like a big spicy cigar with something that's more like a Booker's or something that's got more oomph behind it. It's got
some body.
More body to it. Thank you. That's a better way of putting it. And I don't know if that's right or if that's wrong or if that matters, but that's just how it is in my head.
You know, I think the important message that I've learned from the whiskey guys out there, the distillery masters who know a hell of a lot more about beverages than I do, and that is this whole mentality of drink elitism, where you're telling somebody how they should or shouldn't enjoy their drink or should or shouldn't enjoy their cigar. That really rubs me the wrong way. I mean, by all means, if somebody asks your opinion about how you should enjoy the cigar or how you should enjoy the beverage, give them your opinion. Give them your expertise if you have any. But ultimately, I think it reflects poorly on you as a person if you're going up to somebody enjoying their whiskey or scotch with a ice cube and saying, "Hey man, you're not supposed to be drinking that way." Hey, you know what? If I buy you a drink, maybe I can suggest that you should drink it in a particular way. And we actually sat at a bar in the Stratosphere and had some really nice Glenlivet. Was it the Nadura?
Nadura, yeah.
And we drank that straight, and I got to say, we did some pretty good damage to that bottle. And we were just drinking that straight. There's no ice. But if you put some ice cubes in that would not have offended me in the least, because ultimately you shouldn't drink the beverage the way you like it. Drink better, and enjoy it the way you enjoy it. And people should keep their opinions like that to themselves unless they're asked, because it's kind of rude. And I know I'm Canadian, but it's kind of rude.
I actually just pulled up. So the Nadura that we were drinking, that was 16 year.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
It looks like that's $63.99 a bottle. at Bevmo. And, you know, I will say, and we're kind of getting off topic and we're wrapping up here, that first, we went back to this place twice. The first night we went there, we were kind of wrapping up, and then I said, hey, man, I want to go get a beer. So we decided we were going to go get a beer. We ended up drinking, you know, a third of a bottle of scotch. But the glasses the glasses that he was giving, I mean, he was pouring in, and he was giving us really generous pours. So shout out to whoever that guy was. But the smaller glasses, they were almost like a sherry glass, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, they're fluted. They had a stem on them,
Yeah.
which is intended to keep your hand off the glass so you don't warming the beverage.
Yeah, it tasted better coming out of that glass than the more full rocks glass that the second guy poured us.
Yep. Yeah, and we've talked about that in earlier shows where the shape and particular shape of the glass is going to affect the beverage, and I've done tests on that for my own, and I'm a pretty cynical, critical guy. I firmly believe that the smaller fluted type glass will get you a lot more nose and flavor. And just to go back earlier to my terrible faux pas about the nub, I was actually thinking about the nub Cameroon. Nub Cameroon, I think, would pair really nicely with this Lamb's rum. Cameroon is a really different wrapper. It's a thin wrapper, so I know it's really tough to make cigars out of it, but I think that would pair really, really nicely with this Lamb's. Those would interplay well.
Yeah, I want to, getting onto the cigar topic, and I'll drop it pretty quick, but Logan and I were on Stogie 411 this past weekend, and we were talking about, somehow Mike Forley brought up, it's Forley, right? Mike Forley brought up, the one with the long hair, brought up Cameroon wrappers. He was talking about Rocky Patel, I think, but that reminded me of the Royal Gold Nirvana that Drew Estate made, and I really liked that cigar. But I remember when the guy from Royal Gold, who I think ended up going to prison, sent us samples, and it was of the Corona size, or like the Corona Gorda size.
Yep.
And he sent me 4 samples. 3 of them had just shredded wrappers on them because it's so thin. It's such a finicky wrapper. But if it's used properly, like, that cigar was damn good. Nobody really talks about it, but I do want to smoke some more Cameroon wrapper stuff now that you brought up the nub Cameroon, and maybe I'll track one of those down.
So for our listeners out there, next week we're going to be doing the. I think, Rob, you're going to be co-hosting at a regular time.
I am?
Yep.
I'm back next week?
You're back next week.
I made the cut, baby. Woo!
It's going to be 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. I say that because some people out there can't tell time zones. We're going to have a special guest. We're going to be talking about beers. We're going to be pairing beers. Week after that, I believe we're going to have Catfish on as a co-host. So you've been voted off the island, but just for that week.
Oh, you're doing coffee that week, yeah?
We're doing coffee. A lot of people see me drinking booze and smoking cigars and think, boy, Surgeon, you know, you have a lot of hobbies. You haven't seen the tip of the iceberg. We could go absolutely buck wild on coffee. We're going to probably have a special guest on if things work out. If things don't work out, we're just going to do our coffee show and have a special guest on at another time. We're not going to announce who that special guest is because we want to, you know, throw a couple trailers out there, hopefully get some people excited about that show showing up. Yeah, so that's what we got going on for the next couple weeks.
You know, we ended up getting some coffee when we were at IPCPR, because there's a few different people who had coffee there, and one of the coffees that I brought home, I had in the French press the other day, and I don't know if my French press is any good, and I don't know if I do it right, but that coffee was really good. I really liked it. And I really want to pair it with that particular cigar.
Well,
have you done that yet?
I haven't. I was actually saving that for the show, and there's nothing that says we can't have 3 of us ambushing a guest. So we'll see how that plays out. If our guest doesn't show up, maybe what we'll do is we're going to do 3 mods on pairing that cigar. We're not going to name it right now. We're going to keep it suspenseful. That cigar with their coffee, because I think it'll be really interesting to try their cigar with their coffee, pair the two together, see how they play off of each other. Because again, I'm crazy obsessive about stuff. I'm probably going to do a few different types of coffee preparations for the show and sort of compare them with the cigar, kind of like what I did today, just with less drunkenness, although drunkenness is more fun. but we'll shake it up. Catfish is a huge cigar or coffee guy. I know we talked at length in Vegas about that. So yeah, we'll keep it interesting for you guys out there.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to next week. We're doing beer, so I should buy some beer, huh?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We'll get some beer. We'll get some interesting cigars. We'll try and get some recommendations for you guys out there. So maybe you can try some beers and cigars with us and tell us how wrong we are. But thanks, everyone, for tuning in to another Sharing Our Pairings, episode 4. Please tune in next week, the 6th, for episode 5. As you can see, my faculties are starting to wane after 5 rums. Really appreciate the audience out there, and really appreciate Rob for stepping in co-hosting.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's a good time. I always like to drink a little rum and talk a little cigars. It's always good. So yeah, I'll be back next week. I'm excited. Beer. There's this chocolate stout that they have locally that I want to pair. So
I love me some chocolate stout. So I think the message for this week is drink better, drink less.
I like that, and we'll end on that.